rejoicing in good which the ages have wrought, for life that enfolds us and helps and ease and holds us, and leads beyond the goals which our forebears once sought. We sing a community now in the making, in every far continent, region, and land, with those of all races, all times, and native places. We pledge ourselves in covenant firmly to stand.
Good morning. I am Shelley Nagrani, and I am honored to be your worship associate this morning. On behalf of Reverend Dave Dunn, our music director Alex Peach, and the many people who had a hand in producing this morning's service, I welcome you to Unitarian Universalist Metro Atlanta North congregation, which we affectionately call UUMAN. UUMAN offers no creed or dogma. We do not claim the truth, but we do believe in the inherent worth and dignity of all people and the interconnectedness of all creation. Many of us come to UUMAN because it gives us the opportunity to engage in a responsible, open-minded search for truth and for meaning, being mindful of the love we hold for one another and the world in which we live. Whoever you are, wherever you are from, whomever you love, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. If you are visiting us for the first time, we are so glad to have you. Thank you for choosing to spend your Sunday morning with us. Please fill out our online visitor form, which you can find on the homepage of our website, UUMAN.org. Someone from our membership team will be in contact with you. We will be having an online Google Meet coffee and conversation check-in this morning at 11:15. The link for the check-in can be found on the homepage of our website.
Good morning. It is wonderful to be with you on this joyful morning. Yes, joyful. To me, that melody by saxophonist Eddie Harris, the Freedom Jazz Dance, it's just plain nutty. It's a nutty melody, but I love playing it because it brings me such joy. And may that joy be infectious. May it spread. May it spread through masks, through social distancing, over the internet. Yes, may it spread. Welcome to UUMAN on this joyful morning.
This morning's Chalice lighting is from Maureen Killoran, a UU minister.
In these hard times, let us look first to the response of love.
In the midst of challenge, may our chalice flame bear witness to the inherent worth and dignity of every human being.
In the midst of uncertainty, may our chalice be a beacon of encouragement, that our values may guide our choices.
Let us look first to the response of love.
Love can transform the world.
Many of you might be familiar with a drawing of a guy who's carrying this giant, or pushing this giant boulder, rolling it up a large mountain. You've probably all seen pictures of this before. And you might know that this guy, usually a muscular guy, pushing this rock up the mountain, you know that once that rock gets to the top, it just rolls back down to the bottom again. And the man has to keep pushing it up to the top of the mountain. There's no flat spot on the top of the mountain for the rock to rest. So his fate is just to keep continuing to roll that rock up the mountain. Many of you might not know, however, how he came to this fate. In Greek mythology, there are several different stories as to how he comes to this fate. His name is Sisyphus, and he's very smart and very clever. In fact, he's smarter than the gods. Much more clever than the gods. He tricked the gods out of death several times. The underworld, according to Greek mythology, was the place where you went after you died. There's no evidence of this. It's Greek mythology. And the underworld was run by the god Hades and his wife, goddess Persephone. And one of Hades' minions was Death himself, who would get people from this world and drag them in chains down to the underworld. Well, it came to be Sisyphus' time. So Death goes up to this world and chains Sisyphus, begins to drag him to the underworld. But just when he's about to enter, Sisyphus escapes the chains and chains up Death himself. Sisyphus goes back to this mortal world, and Death himself is enchained. Hades, the god of the underworld, notices that he's not gaining any new customers, any new dead people. And he finds Death, yes, in chains. He frees Death from the chains and says, hey, go back and get Sisyphus. Bring him down here. Well, Death doesn't really want to do that. He doesn't want to get enchained by Sisyphus again, but he goes anyway. Meanwhile, Sisyphus, back at home with his wife, has a plan, because he knows that Death will be coming for him again. He says to his wife very loudly, the next time I die, throw my body, dead body, into the public square so that everybody can see it. Now, that is a very humiliating thing to happen to you. But he said this to his wife with a wink, 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 so that she could understand not to really do that to him. But he said that very loud so that all the gods could hear, that he wanted his body thrown into the town square. So Death comes and chains Sisyphus, drags him down to the underworld, and immediately Sisyphus goes to Persephone, the goddess of the underworld, and says, hey, Persephone, it's good to be back here. Love what you've done with the place. It looks great. By the way, I have a favor to ask of you. I told my wife that when I died, I wanted my body thrown into the town square, and she wasn't given a chance to do that. And Persephone says, oh yes, I remember you hearing that from you. So Sisyphus says, can I go back to the mortal world once again so that my wife can complete that process of my death? And Persephone thinks it over and said, well, are you going to promise to come back? And Sisyphus is like, of course I'll promise to come back. Who wouldn't want to be down here? I love it here. It's great. We'll have tea. It's a date then, says Persephone. You may go. Kind of as a sidebar, there's really nothing really going on down in the underworld, but the tea there is always hot. It's always hot. Anyway, Sisyphus is allowed to go back up to the mortal world. And when he finds his wife, they smile at one another, they high-five, hug, they have tricked death again because Sisyphus has no intention of going back to the underworld, hot tea or otherwise. Well, years and years and years go by, and Hades finally understands, where's this Sisyphus guy? He should be down here. Again, he tells Death, go up and get Sisyphus. And Death goes up, puts Sisyphus in chains, drags him down into the underworld. And this time, the gods of the underworld were ready for him. Hades had a meeting with all of the gods and goddesses of the underworld and said, look, this guy Sisyphus is smarter than us. Don't listen to him. I imagine that he passed out earplugs so that people would not listen to Sisyphus. Or maybe even gagged the gods and goddesses of the underworld so that they would not promise Sisyphus anything. So Death drags Sisyphus down, and Hades is waiting for him at the base of the largest mountain of the underworld. And at that base is the huge rock. And from that day forward, Sisyphus, his fate is to push the rock up to the top of the mountain. And when it rolls down, he goes down the mountain and once again begins pushing it back up the mountain once again. And that is the mythology of Sisyphus.
Now is the time in the service when the love that binds us together is spoken aloud. Sue Greenspan is sharing a concern. It's Wednesday and my blood cancer became very real for the first time today. I saw the hematologist. My hematocrit and hemoglobin were elevated, so I had to have my first phlebotomy treatment where they remove half a pint of blood. However, after 5 sticks, they couldn't get any blood to flow. They sent me home, and I go back in the morning for round 2. Once they are successful, I go back after 2 weeks to test my levels again. If they are still elevated, I'll have another phlebotomy treatment. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Stephen Shanahan and Elizabeth Rohan share a joy that their 18th anniversary is next Tuesday. I drop this final pebble for the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken. Let us hold each other in our hearts until we meet again.
I invite you to take a deep breath. Close your eyes and just settle in. Allow the body to relax. In this meditation today, we're going to harvest the wisdom of Rumi to learn more about how to navigate life's challenges. Here's Rumi's analogy on how life unfolds.
This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival.
A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor.
Welcome and entertain them all.
Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably.
He may be clearing you out for some new delight.
The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in.
Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
There are so many layers to the wisdom of this poem. Our lives are like guest houses, and sometimes things show up.
Illness, threats, financial challenges. Are these the kind of guests we would like making reservations with us? Certainly not, and yet show up they do.
Our choice now is how we greet them and how we respond. Rumi counsels us, each has been sent as a guide from beyond, and life may be clearing you out for some new delight. I love these words.
Even if we don't understand in this moment why this has happened, could we make space to pause, to listen, to be open?
Sometimes it's only through loss that we come to better appreciate what remains.
But sometimes emotions are running really strong, and we need a bit more support. Here is one mindfulness practice that might help.
From the Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron.
She says, it's not life that causes suffering, it's our interpretation of it that causes so much distress.
Rather than identifying with your emotions by saying, I am happy, or I am sad, what about just naming them?
There is happiness. There is anger.
There is excitement. There is grief.
And like clouds in the sky, realize that those emotions will come and go.
This is a time of tremendous upheaval. It's natural and normal to experience strong feelings as a result.
But just like the weather, emotions ebb and flow.
Let them flow through you while always turning toward the good, what fuels your gratitude and joy. Day by day, breath by breath, we are presented with the choice of how to respond. What serves you best? Step towards that. Rumi encouraged us, be patient where you sit in the dark. The dawn is coming.
He continued, don't go off sightseeing. The real journey is right here.
The great excursion starts from exactly where you are. You are the world. You have everything you need. You are the secret. You are the wide opened.
Rumi shares, the quieter you become, the more you're able to hear.
For a few breaths, I invite you to come to quiet. Gently come back to the body. Open the eyes. May you be safe.
May you be healthy.
May you be well.
The 1989 movie Glory relates the history of one of the first all African American regiments to fight in the Civil War. And this regiment is led by a white man, a young white man, 25-year-old Colonel Robert Gould Shaw. And in the movie, one of the characters, African American characters, is a rebellious guy named Trip. And he goes AWOL, missing from the camp one evening. And upon his unexpected return to camp, Colonel Shaw gathers the whole regiment together, brings them forth, and calls for people to bring Trip forward. No one knows what's going to happen to Trip. Well, he's tied to a post, and his shirt is ripped from his back, revealing scars of whippings when he was a slave. And it becomes apparent that he too, Trip, is going to be whipped on this morning. And when Trip realizes this, he turns and trains his piercing gaze on Colonel Shaw. He stares a hole through him, wordlessly expressing what words cannot express. As if to say, you're going to do this to me? You think you can punish me? Who do you think you are, God? I will feel the crack of your whip, but you will be the one to feel the humiliation. Look at yourself. This will be my victory. In the current state of affairs, in the world in which we find ourselves, you can't watch TV for too long without coming upon a commercial where some celebrities or some sports stars will tell you, we'll get through this. We'll get through this. Although I'm not convinced that they, or I, or anyone truly understands what this is. And it can be a bit disconcerting. At the end of Albert Camus' book, The Plague, Dr. Ryu, the main character, is on a rooftop and he's watching the people of the town celebrate with fireworks and frivolity their defeat of the plague. Yet Dr. Ryu knows better. He knows that the plague never fully goes away, that it lingers, it lurking, biding its time to an appropriate time where it can rise again. Now, apocalypse, the word apocalypse, it's a word that can send shivers up and down my spine. But the Greek root of the word means to uncover, to reveal. And as you who are on a search for truth and meaning in the world, it's our responsibility to look deep into the apocalypse, the revelation, in an effort to make sense of the situation in which we find ourselves. And although we're still in the thick of it, wearing masks and practicing social distancing, in the future, might our plague and its mutations insist on coming and going again and again, like the seasons? Might the plague be our rock that we must repeatedly push up the mountain, only to have it roll back down again and again and again? In his essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, Camus writes, "If Sisyphus's descent down the mountain is thus sometimes performed in sorrow, it can also take place in joy." Joy? Seriously? How could that be? Could he ever claim, Sisyphus, ever claim victory over both the gods and the rock? and do so in joy? How? Well, it can't be done by remembering the past and waiting it for once again to become our future. It can't be done by anticipating a time when things will return to normal. That would be as if clinging to the rock as it rolls down the mountain, and then continuing to cling to this rock as it carries you, falls into an endless sea, carrying you down with it. That would be hell. Clinging to the past, waiting for yesterday's sun to rise again to tomorrow on yesterday, is the plague's victory. Camus says that Sisyphus teaches the higher fidelity that negates the gods and raises rocks. That we may not be the ultimate masters of our faith. Things happen to us and our loved ones that are beyond our control. Yet, we must be the masters of our being. Rather than living in denial, fear, anger, or rage, or thinking that there will be a time that we will get through this, as if we somehow seem to know that there will be a time when this plague is not. Yet rather, it is by our reaction to whatever this brings that we can make the plague our own. And that we can continue to help one another with this, whatever this ends up being. There's an old Buddhist story. The Buddha asked a student, actually, if a person is struck by an arrow, is it painful? And the student replies, it is. The Buddha asks once again, if the person is then struck by an additional arrow, is it more painful? The student replies, it surely is. The Buddha explained, in life, we cannot always control the first arrow. However, the second arrow is our reaction to the first. And with this second arrow comes the possibility of choice. We can choose to not let the rock win. We can choose to not let the plague win. We can choose to not let it win in our hearts, regardless of whatever it does and whatever it is. This would be our victory. The poet Christian Wyman writes, faith is not faith in some state beyond change. Faith is faith in change. That this welter of cells entails for us great sorrow and difficulty is true, but there is great joy in this ongoing apocalypse as well. Joy in reality's abundance, and in the deep implicit peace whose surest promise of reality is the miraculous capacity we have to imagine it. The miraculous capacity we have to imagine it. In a work of art, in a gesture of love, in the wearing of a mask. In this ongoing apocalypse, in this unfolding revelation, with what is being uncovered, what are we to do? What will you choose to imagine?
We each contribute our talents, time, and treasure to UUMAN because it fills a need in our lives. What is created by our gifts is much greater than the sum of its individual parts. UUMAN, a home for community-minded spiritual seekers, is here because we have all made it so. The offering will now be taken using the Givelify app.
When I was a boy each week, Sundays we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word, consecrate the holy bread. Everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, Jesus made the water wine. I remember feeling sad, miracles don't happen still, but now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. Holy water is rare at best, barely wets my fingertips, but now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. Used to be a world half there, heaven second rate, hand me down, but I walk it with a reverent air. Everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Read a questioning child's face, say it's not a testament. That'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come, say it's not a sacrament. I'll tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood and saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse. Made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. Used to be a world half there, heaven second rate, hand me down, but I walk it with a reverent air. Everything is holy now.
Join us as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again.
With the second arrow comes the possibility of choice. May we choose joy. Go in peace and enjoy your week.